When gamers think of Far Cry, they think of breathtaking environments, expansive open worlds, and games that are truly worth every cent. They might also think about the terrible movie made about the first game. The Far Cry series is a franchise that, since its humble beginnings, has produced chart-topping and memorable stories that have captivated fans since 2004, when the first Far Cry game was released. The series has always utilised the first-person shooter genre, and has added multiplayer functionality along the way. The games often used open-world maps that gave the player the liberty to go about many of the main missions in any way they deemed fit. The tried and true choice of going in quietly or choosing to kill every organism in-game are available, but the Far Cry games really do a good job of making you feel that you are creating a unique path towards your objective, and this has always kept players coming back for the next installment. One of the impressive aspects of this series as a whole is that none of the games continue on with the story from the previous, apart from the Instinct series, which follows Jack Carver throughout all of them. The Far Cry series has produced 4 main titles and 6 minor titles. The first game of the franchise, titled simply Far Cry, was developed by Crytek and published by Ubisoft. It follows the protagonist Jack Carver as he tries desperately to claw his way towards the goal of survival in an exotic horror. Far Cry sold 730,000 units within a mere 4 months of being released. The game used horror aspects in its narrative and really focused on the dangers of experimentation, since the island is slowly being overrun by creatures that were once under the scalpel. The Instinct series was Xbox's way to get in on the original Far Cry game hype by generating pretty much the same game, but with accessibility for the console crowd. The resulting world was much more linear than the PC players of old remembered. This concerned the community, but by using the power of Xbox Live, new and engaging multiplayer modes were introduced. This is also the first time Far Cry introduced its new special ability to the games, Feral Powers. Far Cry Instincts was also the first game to implement an impressive and elegant map creation suite into the Far Cry series that would be used in most of the games going forward. There was also a Wii version of the Far Cry games named Vengeance, but we don't like to talk about that. With an impressive and somewhat confusing showing from the franchise so far, Far Cry 2 had a sizable weight on its shoulders. It came through very strong with an involved campaign, detailed map editor, and a worthwhile multiplayer section. However, no game is without its flaws. The most common ones include having to unjam an old and rusty weapon at any given time, which does include in the middle of a gunfight, having a gun break and explode from overuse, and also randomly getting attacked by a character's malaria. These mechanics unique to Far Cry 2 really frustrated a large chunk of players, because it became more of an annoyance than anything. As a result, the game received a balanced cluster of ratings and was said to lean towards realism a lot. This explains why some people wanted to put their controls in walls and why some people wanted to play it several times, like me. The story follows a mercenary who is tasked with killing a notorious and well-spoken arms dealer, known only as the Jackal. The pinnacle for this game's allure was its massive open world and jaw-dropping beauty that can be found throughout the map. The second installment of the main game did really well in improving on the choose-your-own approach from Far Cry's of old. The game contained a diverse weather system that had the power to influence the player's decisions. Wind played a key role in our fire spread, and the cover of night was advertised as aiding the stealth aspect of combat. Overall, it did an awesome job at adding variety to the already solid base that was cemented by the first game. The next game wasn't called something crazy like Far Cry Evolved Pred 2.5, it was named Far Cry 3. Created by the same guys from Far Cry 2, it was released on the 29th of November in 2012 for Australia, and gradually released to everyone else. Yes, that's right, Australians, we won this one. The game's narrative was centered around Jason Brody, who decided to go on a holiday. The only real problem for him was that he chose an island that was occupied by lawless pirates. Everyone Jason knows gets imprisoned by the pirates, who are led by the infamous Vaas. Vaas was one of the craziest antagonists to grace this series and just games in general. You might be able to think of someone who plays a scarier character, but Michael Mando's performance in Far Cry 3 is a pretty safe bet. I'm not the only one who thought this, as Vaas grabbed a high spot on our top 10 villains list. The game had very little problems when you were just going out and exploring and making your own fun. So really, it's exactly what an open world should feel like. Thanks to the setting of the game, it was also a wonder to look at too. Far Cry 3 supplied something new to the series which sounded really promising: a co-op campaign. The constant chances that you get to one-up your fellow players in some competitive events are a nice addition. The boost you can apply to yourself and other players can make combat somewhat rewarding, but the repetition was a hard pill to swallow.
Far Cry 3. Blood Dragon.
The next game to come out was a shock to every Far Cry fan system. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. This game threw away everything that resembled normality in the Far Cry franchise. It replaced it with hilarious pop culture references that were turned into a plot, cheesy one-liners, huge explosions, and dragons for no other reason than to give you something to kill. This game, yes that's right, it's a standalone game, was designed simply to make you laugh, and it does this really well. The famous Blood Dragon tutorial is proof of this because it tries its hardest to make fun of every tutorial under the sun. So ultimately, Blood Dragon is an extra slice of the game before it for a cheaper price. If you enjoyed playing Far Cry 3, it's one to have a look at. Now a quick mention is not enough for a game that has simply beaten the lights out of Far Cry 3. So far, Far Cry 4 has received a very warm reception for its enjoyable open world, interesting story, and ability to get you very distracted with its huge variety of things to do. Fans have griped at the main character for being uninteresting, but to me, another Jason Brody would cause me to run to Far Cry 2. All of the games you've seen here are full of things that every gamer should experience. To not experience them would be the real definition of insanity.